the worst, undignified, ungracious losers in the world. I think it's preposterous. I think it's ridiculous. Do you want me to answer the question, or do you want to bloody well answer it for me? Out comes this saucy little sod. He's just a little runt, isn't he? And I hope he reaps the whirlwind for it. You've missed the irony. Maybe it's evaded you because it wasn't straight between your eyes. So when we're listening to a lot of old fanny from a football person saying it's the benefit of marginal gains, you're not interested in that. You're only interested in what you think. I mean, I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a world beater. I think we have a propensity to turn players into something better than they actually are.
We don't have many world beaters in our...
No, I know we don't. But if you listen to some of the conversations that we have about Anthony Gordon, if we had have played him here and had played him there, he'd have been the difference in certain circumstances. I think he's a player that's got good ability. I think he believes in himself. I think if a bigger club along the Newcastle came along, he'd exhibit the same characteristics as all footballers exhibit, that they would find an opportunity to go somewhere else. He's doing the job that a £40 million player signing for Newcastle should do.
You were a bit heavy when he went from Everton to Newcastle. You called him a rat, if I remember rightly.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
I didn't say any of the sort.
A rat deserting the sinking ship.
Well, that might be a mischaracterisation.
Oh,
because
I see.
In the context of a conversation,
those are the words.
The rat's leaving the ship doesn't make him a rat. A rat in terms of a person that's disloyal. I've talked about rats.
I think
leaving
you said I hope he gets what he deserves.
I don't know where you're getting this quote from, and if Luke's going to produce it, then that's fantastic.
Rats leaving the sinking ship.
I certainly call people like Ryan Christie and people like, not Ryan Christie, Ryan Fraser, people that join Newcastle like that as a rat.
I think the producer very rarely gets things wrong. I
very rarely gets things right.
I think you are guilty here.
I don't think I am.
You're allowed to apologise when you've made a mistake.
I don't feel that about Anthony Gordon.
Why did you say it then?
Well, I didn't say it.
Well, you did.
And no one can produce it to say that I did say it. I did certainly say it about Ryan Fraser going from Bournemouth to Newcastle when he deserted them, and it was ironic that he got hooked up.
I remember that.
I did say that,
yeah.
But I don't recall suggesting that Anthony Gordon was a rat. I might have said like rats deserting a sinking ship, because Everton at the time they were a sinking ship. But context is very important. I know we don't like context here.
Oh, I see.
So
that is context. But you said, I hope he gets what he deserves.
Well, I don't remember saying that.
Well, if we can produce
Danny,
that
you just turned around to me and said that you don't like the dark side of a conversation. Why don't you assume that I'm assuming that he will get precisely what he deserves because he deserves to do well? Why would you take it on the negative? Why would you go all unconfessed on me? Let's think about it properly.
I think...
hold your nerve, Danny.
I think he
Stick to your point, Dan.
Really well.
Yeah.
And I think he's exceeded expectation.
Do you think so?
I do.
You just told everybody that
didn't
he was
exceed mine.
Right, so he didn't exceed yours.
No.
Okay.
But I think he...
We got any evidence of that?
You're not out of jail yet in that one. Don't think you are. Where is he in the pecking order with England, Dan?
Well, now it's anyone's guess because we've got a new manager. But I think he'll be in the squad. I know Tuchel's spoken fondly of Rashford before. We've seen Grealish play on the left many times, do a job. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah,
I don't know
he's a handful. I saw him at Craven Cottage against Fulham the other day. Newcastle didn't win it, and I thought they would, but they didn't. Fulham played very, very well.
Well, his end product's
God, he ran it. He ran it for a spell.
His end product's good. He can play through the middle, and the one thing he's got that a lot of really good wingers don't have is great defensive discipline.
Yeah,
does his work. He does his work really well off the ball.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm being told by a production team that you love context and nuance. I'd never heard of the word nuance before until I met you. So we've got all of these things in this clip when Simon spoke about Anthony Gordon.
I don't like the way he's behaved towards Everton Football Club. I can understand that everybody like rats wants to desert a sinking ship, but you're supposed to be able to help that football club, not disadvantage it by your behaviour. And I hope he gets what he deserves. Reaps what he sows.
He's not a rat deserting a sinking ship,
well, he is a little bit, isn't he? I mean, Everton have given him an opportunity. I mean, Danny Murphy and I have to listen to the players that know far more about the ability of players than I do, that he thinks he's a top player, it's going to be a top player, and I wonder what Stuart thinks. But I think he still has a lot to prove, and I think ultimately Everton deserve to be handled a little bit better than by the player. And with a little bit more respect. And they'll say, the clubs don't do that.
Why didn't Everton do what Brighton are doing with Caicedo and say, no, he's not going?
Well, Everton are in a completely different situation, aren't they? They're in a completely different situation. They're managerless. They are rudderless. They are gormless at times with the chairman at the top. And their financial circumstances
with the owner.
The financial circumstances are quite prejudicial because they can't really do much in the transfer market without selling players. So their situation is very different.
Jordan showed no emotion as he was jailed for 12 years.
Not only did
you said it.
Not only did you confirm what we said, you also confirmed
Why are you so happy?
My analysis on Gordon being a top player.
Yeah,
it was a double whammy.
I remember that.
Rats deserting a sinking ship. I never said it. I never said it.
Context is everything. First of all, I didn't call him a rat. I suggest that rats leaving a sinking ship is an analogy, which is
and
often
he gets what he
used,
deserves.
and which was hopefully a successful
But you
time at
denied you
Newcastle.
said that.
I didn't deny the context of saying that he gets what he deserves. I wanted to remind myself of how I said it. Now I remember it now.
Simon says they're flatlining. Do you think so?
Well, they're not progressing like you would have expected them to have done after their very good finish last season.
Do you think they failed in their summer recruitment, Simon?
I think
they have done better business.
Well, I think ultimately failure, when you're 11 games into a season, is probably not the right terminology. I do look at this season as a slightly strange one because the orthodoxy of this season was Man City, Arsenal, Man City, Arsenal, Man City, Arsenal, Man City, Arsenal. And it has this sort of feel about this season, almost like the 15-16 season when Leicester, except the outliers are Liverpool in this instance, so there's more credibility behind the team that are dominating the league than perhaps when Leicester did it. But you're looking at Man City and Arsenal, and you expected these two teams to dominate, and they're not. Now, whether that's because the opposition has gotten better, whether it's because they've reached a point where, they are no longer, in City's terms, as hungry for it, or the loss of Rodri. And Arsenal have built a side now over 5 years, and it can't turn off one player. It just simply cannot.
No. Yeah, but Liverpool have been building as well, nicely. Just because Klopp's gone out the door doesn't mean that Liverpool weren't building.
No, but they've won a Premier League during that period.
Yeah, they have. But they're ready. They're probably ready to win another one as well. 9 victories. They're top of the Champions League and the Premier League. Everything has looked very rosy in their garden right now.
But 5 years into a tenure, we do have to look at things and say progress is great.
So you're suggesting then that we get rid of Arteta?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't get all tapped about something because it's your beloved Arsenal. I'm suggesting you have to look.
I'm just applying Jim's logic of sensationalism regarding the narrative.
I do think this is an important season for Arsenal.
Every season's important.
Well, of course, but ultimately, at the end of the day, football managers at big clubs that are spending hundreds of millions of pounds per year are paid to win things, not to be told how much their team are progressing inch by inch. Right. So now Arsenal going through the season where I think they choked in that season. Last season, they got closer to City. Now the next step, logically, is for them to win something and to win a tournament, a meaningful tournament, whether it's the Premier League or it's one of the big cups. And I doubt Arsenal are going to win the Champions League. So unless they're going to really pull up trees and get 90 points and lose a league by 1 point this year, we're not going to see them progressing.
I think that is very fair. And there, Martin is Ash is a Newcastle fan. Martin is an Arsenal puppet, I'm afraid. Arsenal keep flatlining at second. They keep bottling it. And this season they cannot catch a cold. Let's put it out there.
So if Liverpool don't win it now, then do Liverpool bottle it? Is it Liverpool's to lose? What narrative do you want to create?
We're talking about Arsenal.
Okay, well let's sow in the Arsenal. Keep sowing the Arsenal. And on the Arsenal pot that keeps giving.
That is, if you don't mind me saying so, it's a typical deflection act that you perform week in, week out.
You taught me to do that.
When
You've taught me to do that on this show.
And we begin to get under your skin.
Of course they need to do better.
Liverpool.
Of course they need to do better.
Are you a leader?
One at a time.
Are you a leader? Are you a leader?
Are you a leader? You bullies?
Nobody needs to team tag you, Martin.
No, you really?
You 7-year-old.
You better believe it.
The point is that no one's taught you anything. What you do is you redirect because you cannot be objective about Arsenal. I can be objective about Palace. I'm sure he can be objective about the teams that he supports. The moment anyone talks to you about Arsenal, you reduce the conversation to something that makes it about defending the indefensible at a time. Arsenal are not progressing the way they should.
Well, should be bottom of the league then.
And I love you. I do adore you, Martin, but this happens all the time. Let's talk about Liverpool.
No.
Because you're getting at me about Arsenal. Let's
Jim,
put it out to the Arsenal fans.
Just a minute. No,
Martin, I'm in charge.
Yeah,
because it's 10:15.
I don't want to sound like a broken record.
You can shout on me if you want.
I don't want to sound like a broken record. But
I'm going to take us to a break.
Go on then, you do that.
Yeah, just very quickly. I thought I was disagreeing with Simon. I'm not sure now. But Simon, you said that no one... You said that no one expected VAR to be 100% accurate. No. So let me come back on this. What percentage is acceptable for you? What is the accuracy?
Well, it's like anything. You have things. I'll answer the question. It's like anything. When you have a broadband service, you have something called an SLA, which is a service level agreement, which is basically about the level of service you can expect. So I would expect it to be a margin of error which is acceptable. So in the small percentages, in the small single percentage, so 97% of the decisions I'd expect to be right.
97.
Okay, what percentage would you expect from a referee to be right?
A bit less, I think.
Well, I think statistics have proven that referees are in the mid-80s to early 90s. As a matter of course, we've looked. So those statistics came through about a year ago when they said that referees over the last 10 years have got 80-90% right.
So are we now saying that VAR is so that we can get from a position of having 8.5 times out of 10 right from a referee to 9 times out of 10 with the VAR.
Yes, we are.
VAR
And why's that?
giving us,
And why's that?
Well,
Because no one will shut their trap.
Right, well, that may be, but two things. One thing, nobody gets up on a Saturday morning and says, I can't wait to see the referee make some right decisions today.
True.
If the argument is that the only reason we do this is because everybody wants the right decision. No, they don't. They want to go. Nobody ever said, I can't wait to get in the ground and see the referee make some right decisions. And now you're telling me that all of this is so that we can get from 7.5 to 8.
No, but we've also, but if you also, it's a good argument, Paul. But we also have a cottage industry of pundits sitting there making the referee's life virtually impossible. We've had an evolution in the way that broadcasters scrutinise every single aspect of every single decision, and referees being put in the card. So the usage of VAR was to aid them, not to say, we go to a game to get referees. Is it?
On you go, Paul.
Now you're agreeing that the problem then is television and broadcasting.
Yes.
And that VAR actually doesn't
And players
increase
cheating.
anything. Doesn't increase anything. According to what your own thing, your own statistics are, it takes for a 9 out of 10 decisions.
About 10% more.
The referee gets right. Right, so at best we get one decision more. At best we go from 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10.
Yes, a 10% margin. So if you look at anything in life, and we listen to all these guys telling us the benefit of marginal gains. So when we're listening to a lot of old fanny from a football person saying it's the benefit of marginal gains, you don't want marginal gains in refereeing decisions, Paul.
Marginal gains is a phrase that's been made up by a cyclist who currently just spent 200 million on a load of wasted players. Marginal gains means I'm trying to improve.
Paul, we're enjoying you. Paul,
well done, Paul.
Paul, let's finish with this. Was it a red?
Yeah. Was it a red? In my opinion, it wasn't a red. But honestly, my team are so crap, I couldn't give a monkey's whether he plays or not, that useless player. So it doesn't make any difference. All I'm saying to you is this argument should just highlight the utter stupidity of having VAR at all, to give us no increase in benefit of decisions or increase in value of watching. There is absolutely no benefit to it. You don't need to get rid of the appeals process.
1 in 10.
You need to get rid of it. Well, you said 90% of referees.
Well, yeah, we just got up by 10%. Best part of. What I said was mid-80s to mid-90s.
Paul, you've got him in the ropes this morning.
10%.
This is good.
There was a song called 1 in 10, which was a meaningful song a few years ago.
Simon's persistent.
Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Your constant argument is that you've got a marginal, these gains.
Oh, God.
And the reason we want it is because people in the past have said we need it because the refs are so bad.
No,
you've said that for a while. If you bring something in and then you learn from it and you think, actually,
get rid of it.
Yeah.
You think so?
No, we won't. But
right.
you make out you're not allowed to try something and then say, it doesn't work. You're trying to stick to it even though it's crap.
Statistically, it does work.
By 10%.
Fine, okay. But you ask the average football manager, it's a terrible decision against me. You get one more decision right out of 10 that have gone wrong for you, they'll take
fans,
it.
Simon, not the manager.
Of course it is. But the way that it's gone, the way that football refuses to accept authority, refuses to accept the fact that people make
would now.
I'll give over. What? And players will stop cheating.
How many Championship fans
Danny,
won
you
VAR?
banged your head on the way out of the carsy. Look, the narrative that's being played out about Chelsea's ownership is that they are profligate, they don't know what they're doing, they are this daddy Warbuck mentality of no structure and substance behind what they're doing, just spending cash around. And now there's a division between two very influential people. There's a significant amount of money being paid for this football club, a significant amount of money being invested in it. And if you remember what they said when they bought it, they were going to commit themselves to 1.75 billion worth of spend. So they're staying true to their word. What you want is a team on the field. You often have with very powerful, influential people that have significant amounts of financial resources, you have a diverging of agendas. You've got John Textor at Crystal Palace. I'm not suggesting Steve Parish is particularly powerful, but he is the chairman of a football club and he's not in the financial bracket of Bowley or Egbali. But notwithstanding that, he's a powerful figure at Crystal Palace, and you've got Textor and him departing from agendas. And it may well be that this is the case. If somebody wants to buy someone else out, someone's going to have to write out a big check.
Right.
Or they're going to have to find a way, if there is genuine discourse between the two parties about the strategy, then they're going to have to find a way to find some accord. But right now, the underpinning narrative will be, and I'm not suggesting that the media are wrong or right here, is that there is now, to add to the travails of this ridiculous amount of money being spent, this ridiculous owner that speaks at conferences about having northwest or north-south games to try and raise money for the pyramid, and this guy that spends money left, right and centre, and a team that doesn't handle its players very well and doesn't pay its players, or ultimately wants to get rid of star performers like Raheem Sterling. Now you've got the added indignation of they can't even get on together. So that's another layer, another part of this car crash of a Chelsea story that is being peeled back by aspects of the media and aspects of information curves, and some briefing coming in as well, I suspect, from certain quarters of the Chelsea environment. Look, this project, however fans do or don't like it, we are now in an era where the business of sport transcends instantaneous gratification, whether people like it or not. We've been brought up on a staple diet of instantaneous success relative to the level that you're at. And the level that Chelsea is at was winning leagues and winning Champions Leagues. Now you've got a group of guys that are looking at the inherent value of a football club for now and in the future and saying, I bought a football club for £2.5 billion. If I do it right, perhaps in 15 years' time, it's going to be worth 15 billion quid. Along the way, I'm going to gain access to a world of data about a variety of people that support this football club that I can monetize other businesses through. There is a whole raft of stuff going on here rather than just football. And so with that in mind, I don't know whether they are playing nicely or nastily with one another.
It doesn't look it. I mean, it's just not a byproduct, Simon, of co-ownership. That it's always going to end up in a power struggle.
Well, you've got perfect examples, haven't you, with Hicks and Gillette, right? Where you've got people that clearly couldn't work in the same room,
right?
And on the whole, if you look around, I always think that there can only be one. It's like the Highlander, isn't there? There can only be one. There can only be one leader. Otherwise, you've got this consistent conflict in mind.
Egos.
Now, you've got a division of Labour at Man United. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see how it plays out where you've got a captain of industry in Radcliffe who's made more money than the Glazers, buying a proportion of a business that the Glazers bought with everybody else's money, but they're the controlling influence. So you're interested to see if that dynamic works out well.
So do you I mean, this is an interesting one because you're calling it a car crash, but very recent. No, you did.
You're also doing that tongue in cheek.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, but I can only report on what you've just said. So you've said you called it a car crash. Very recently, in your Daily Mail column, you were saying, okay, this will work.
No,
Don't worry. This is just a matter of time.
You've missed the irony. Maybe it's evaded you because it wasn't straight between your eyes. What I'm doing is I'm characterising what's being said in the media. I've basically said everybody's painting a picture of doesn't know what they're doing. Daddy Warbuck sits at conferences talking about North-South games. I didn't say this. Other people said that. So I've then written it underneath the auspice of this is the overriding narrative and this is the latest version of it. I don't happen to buy into that version, but I'm painting the full picture that others are putting forward. Everything Chelsea's ownership does now, including the distance from their fans.
Don't you think you've reached the stage in the media where people want to hear what you want to say rather than try and...
No, I just did.
No. So do you think it will work at Chelsea?
Yes.
£1.3 billion
so what?
in 2 years?
Who cares?
Now there are squabbling in the boardroom.
But
does it look like it's working?
Well, everything doesn't happen.
Do you think they'd be unhappy with Todd Bowley's signatures? Do you think there's somebody somewhere else with 61% more than him because he's only got 31% or a 13% share? He's only got 13% share. I'd be surprised that you didn't know that. I thought you'd know that.
I don't spend my time.
He's only got 30. He's got a 13% share in the company.
Yep.
Okay. Is it Chelsea Co? They call themselves?
I don't know.
Well, that's what it's called.
Okay.
So anyway, they're obviously now there's a posturing, and they're looking at the job he's done so far and thought, hold on a minute, let's buy him out, let's get him out of the building.
He's vacated that job, and ultimately Egbali stepped into certain respects. So what you want and what you can do are two different things. There is no obligation upon Todd Bowley to sell his shares. So people can want what they want.
No, right? But there's a counter purchase, isn't there? So whatever you offer up a share, then you've got
Martin,
to.
It's not like a compulsory purchase order that someone wants to put a motorway through your house and can subsequently buy your house and force it through. They cannot force him to sell his shares unless he particularly wants to.
Both sides want to buy each other's shares.
That's the posturing currently. Neither one of them are going to have the dough to do it, so they're going to have to leverage something else to be able to do it.
You've crossed swords with Haaland, haven't you, Simon?
Yeah. I think he's a bit of a one. I think he's a remarkable footballer, and he can back it up. And I think as you get older, you get wiser. You realise that there are times that ultimately you can just behave in a certain way. You don't need to be full of yourself because you realise that you are as good as you know yourself to be, and you don't do it. I mean, I bumped into him in my bay. He was playing on a paddle court next door to me. And I was texting someone that's a huge Man City fan, just saying, you never guess who's on a court next to me. Out comes this saucy little sod saying, I don't want any pictures taken. I said, well, of what? He said, of me. I said, why would I be taking a picture of you, you silly sod? I'm playing paddle tennis. And I spoke to his dad, and his dad was lovely. but he was a one, and I walked away thinking, not sure about you, son.
But isn't that just a sign of the times?
Well,
really?
maybe.
We've talked for a long time.
I don't know. If I'm a 21-year-old footballer, 22-year-old footballer, and you've got a guy playing on another court that's an older man, maybe a bit of respect is probably the way you should behave.
I completely agree.
I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, what he is a remarkable footballer. He can back it up. But somewhere along the line, you will get caught short if you lose sight of the reality of what you are. You're just a footballer. You're a very good footballer. You're not a panacea to the world's problems. You don't get to stroll around being facetious and sarcastic with other people. And I don't think it's particularly a good look to talk to another manager the way he appears to have done.
Although there is a balance to this, because, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. I as I've said at the beginning, I do think we've got to be careful not to have this group of footballers that are all super well behaved now and always say and do the right thing. You know, that game, I think we all probably enjoyed it for different reasons.
It was competitive.
There was a feistiness about it, Jim.
Yeah.
There was something about, the battling between Gabriel and Haaland, all those, even on the bench, people going at each other a little bit.
But what's he doing saying to Arteta, stay humble? You made a great point a moment ago, Danny, about Messi. You think of the greats of the past, possibly the greatest at one time, Pelé. Talk about humility.
I think it's easier to be humble when you're brilliant. And I think it's easier for Haaland to be humble. He doesn't need the other stuff.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't mind the argy-bargy on the pitch. That's part of who he is. You need that. That's how he plays. Rooney used to have it. Do you know what I mean?
But Haaland's borderline arrogant now, isn't he?
But his dad is very sensible, and his dad's very balanced.
He'll have a word.
And his dad said to me, "Look, he was a bit rude to you, and I'll deal with that." The point is that you find that the biggest stars are the smallest riders. It's always the small stars that want the biggest rider in their room of what they want on their thing, who want they want on their guest
I know
list,
what you mean by
I
that.
It's the big stars that actually don't need to tell anybody. Don't need to let anybody know.
In fact, they want to be inconspicuous a lot of the time.
And the small ones,
I think Haaland will regret that.
Were the ones with the most noise. Yeah, but he is a star, but he's young, and this football world, Danny's alluded to it on many occasions. You forget that you're just a footballer. You're living in this bubble, and all of a sudden, you're the panacea to all the ails of the world. You're the most important person because everybody's telling you how wonderful you are all the time. Then you get out in the real world, and everyone just goes, "Who cares what you do?"
Yeah, you do.
At some point.
Cole is a Liverpool fan. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Tell us what you want to say about Arne Slot and Liverpool.
Yeah, listen, great show, thank you. But I just want to tap upon our friend, Mr. Jordan over there. Never loves to give Liverpool the credit where they deserve, really. I mean, you're saying about a Real Madrid depleted squad and, how we're playing at the moment. Liverpool are quite depleted ourselves. We got Trent out, we got Alisson out, we got Harvey Elliott out, we got Chaser out. Yeah, granted, he hasn't played a game yet, but still. We've also got Jota out.
Exactly. Now, you put him up, Cole. You tell him. You educate him on exactly what Liverpool have been doing.
Yeah, listen, that's depleted. We beat everyone that's been in front of us. And Simon Jordan keeps on saying they played no one yet.
No, I didn't.
Mr. Jordan, we have played someone. We played Real Madrid, the best team.
I think what I might have said after about
played Arsenal as well, got a good result.
About 3 or 4 games.
Well, exactly. Now, can I just finish actually before Mr. Jordan, gives his 2 pence worth? Listen,
50 pence worth.
Arne Slot, the credit where he deserves this, and also as well, a lot of people are saying, this is Klopp's team. It is Klopp's team. Granted, he walked into an absolute amazing team, which didn't really do that well last year. They should have really competed for the title, but they fell off. What he's done, he's come in. He's given us all calmness. Last night you saw what Arne Slot has given to the team. Last year, a couple of years ago when we played Real Madrid, it was all go, go, go on the Klopp. And I love that, right? But now I get less of an heart attack now because you see last night how composed and calm. It was like, in all honesty, I'm going to put it out there. We looked like prime Barcelona last night. How about that, Mr. Jordan?
Why would you want to look like another football club? Why don't you look like yourself?
We look like prime Barcelona.
What's the matter with you, certain Liverpool fans? You've got a persecution complex. When did I talk about the idea that you hadn't played anybody? You mean after about 3 games? Is that what you're talking about?
Liverpool haven't played anyone good yet.
No, at the beginning of the season when I said you'd played Ipswich and a couple of other teams. Not now. I haven't repeated it in the last 8 weeks.
Oh, come on, Mr. Jordan. Listen, you were just saying, just literally earlier on the radio show, that we played, not a great Real Madrid at the moment. Listen,
but they aren't a great Real Madrid at the moment. It's a fact.
Listen, we had 3 academy players on that pitch last night.
Right.
3 academy players. Real Madrid had
So what is it you
Well,
want?
I think they probably want a little bit of credit for the fact that they are 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League table and top of the Champions League table.
So when you asked me the question at the beginning of the conversation,
are they the best team in Europe?
Do you think they're the best team in Europe? I said, well, it's pretty bloody evident. They're top of the Premier League. They're doing brilliantly. They're top of the Champions League. They're doing brilliantly. I'm not entirely sure what else you want. I mean, what is it you require of me to meet the expectations so you'll be happy with the praise that I give to your football club? I don't support your team.
Could you dress up in a Mo Salah shirt, please?
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, every time you have you say something about Liverpool, you get a challenge from Liverpool fans unless it's exactly what they want. And I tell you what, when we used to play when I owned Palace, you were the worst losers in the world, the worst undignified, ungracious losers in the world.
How long ago was that, Simon Jordan? How many years ago? Please tell me.
Oh, so the culture's changed, is it? You're much better losers now, are you? I can just see by the dignity of this conversation, because 8 weeks ago I said your team hadn't played anybody. Now you're going to carry it forward. Rubbish, nonsense. Grow up.
Put another subject on here, right? You're saying about how Klopp really wasn't that good because he didn't really win that many titles in 9 years.
He's brilliant.
Let me ask you one question, Mr. Jordan. Let me ask you one question. How many titles or trophies did Palace win in 9 years when you were looking after them?
Different scale of football club, different comparison.
Jordan,
well, do you want me to answer the question, or do you want to bloody well answer it for me?
Go on.
I think Klopp is a brilliant manager. In fact, if you listen to what I said, seeing as you seem to pay so much attention to it, you'll actually have seen me say that I think he's the best manager in the Premier League. You're not interested in that. You're only interested in what you think.
Mr. Jordan, sit back, take a sip of tea, and calm down.
Quick,
I'm perfectly calm. You're the loon.
Get Mr. Jordan another oat iced latte, please, because he needs an injection of caffeine. Cole, thank you very much. Terrific. Enjoyed that. That was a good exchange.
They're such whiners, some Liverpool fans, aren't they?
I mean, Simon, listen to Alex say, if Thomas Tuchel isn't best in class, at one time you couldn't argue that he wasn't. He certainly was.
Yeah, he was very good at one time. At one time at Chelsea, I thought he was a really good manager. I think he comes with a lot of baggage, a lot of challenges, because the common denominator in every job he gets his backside booted out, obviously, is himself, whether it's PSG, whether it's Bayern Munich, or whether it's Chelsea. For this FA, for this guileless, gutless, supposed regulator of the English game that can't do that job and doesn't do a particularly good job at the top of the pyramid, I would love them. I would welcome a Thomas Tuchel for them, because that would be precisely what they deserve, because the handful that he would give them would be amusing to watch. But the reality of it is, I don't see that point.
Bitter and callous, but anyway, carry on.
Well, I think it is bitter and callous, because I do think our FA is a shambles. I do think that not being the regulator of the English game is an absolute embarrassment to us. But the bottom line is I do also think that there are a bunch of faceless individuals that don't do a particularly good job. And so we've seen the FA being in a situation where you can take credit for St George's. Oh, well done. I mean, the Germans have got more pitches in Germany than we've got in a country that's got the world's richest league. More of the 4G pitches that we don't have. So let's not get too carried away about what St George's is.
Should you not be aiming that then at the people, the incumbents that were there at the FA when the Premier League was formulated? You're aiming this at the people now, or the people that come back?
But they've carried it on for ad infinitum. The guys that handed it over to the Premier League in 1992 and the guys that have followed it on, it doesn't excuse them. It doesn't excuse them for not making the contributions to grassroots. It doesn't excuse them for not running the game properly. Now, going back to the question you asked, is they do deserve. I mean, the FA have had an unfortunate situation where it was a race to the bottom between the FA chairman.
So tell me why they deserve Tuchel, Thomas Tuchel. You said it in a way, a condescending way, that they deserve Thomas Tuchel. Why do they deserve? Tell me why they deserve.
Because
what are you alluding to with Thomas Tuchel? I think it's time for you to get this out about Thomas Tuchel.
It's called sarcasm and irony. He's a handful. Everyone knows he's a handful. He doesn't have to get it out.
He's a good manager, no?
But the common denominator of Thomas Tuchel getting booted out of football clubs is Thomas Tuchel. He got booted out of PSG because he fell out with the PSG guys. He got booted out of Chelsea because he fell out with Chelsea guys. He got booted out of Bayern Munich. One thing being
wants
demanding,
to create change.
Another thing being perhaps very more difficult to handle than you're worth. There's the balance. And my irony, it's called sarcasm. I would
think
like
Chelsea
the FA
would take him
to
back
have it on their toes with somebody that they don't put there as a vanilla poster boy.
Manchester United are on their way down here, probably here already, in a nice sunny London this morning, because they take on Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham tonight.
Coming down by train.
Coming down by train these days. Yeah, I quite like that. They pack it with their own security, but they hop on the train, I think, at Stockport and come down here. And I presume that's how they go back. Anyway, you've derailed me there.
Is that for their carbon footprint?
Very much so. Ruben Amorim, though, is he giving mixed messages on Marcus Rashford? Marcus Rashford, who himself declared to Henry Winter, "My days are numbered at Manchester United." So Rashford, it's our understanding, will not be playing tonight, isn't in the squad and hasn't travelled. So what's Amorim on about when he speaks now about Rashford?
What I want is to take the best of of Marcus Rashford as the players. So I don't talk about the future, I just talk about the present. I want the best of each one of them, and that is the key point for me. I just want to win and to help the team to be better. So we are better with Marcus Rashford, and that's simple. And we try different things to push Marcus to the best level that he's shown in the past. So this kind of club needs big talent, and he's a big talent. So we just need to perform at the highest level, and that is my focus. I just want to help Marcus.
So he wants to help Marcus,
and he's left him at home. Is what I'd help him.
Well, I mean, Amarim's saying that, and Marcus Rashford, as far as we gather, could well be sitting at home in Rashford Towers listening to you and I, because he's not going to be involved tonight.
No, he's probably recording one of those podcasts with the soft music behind him, telling us how hard done by he is. I think he's in a difficult position, Amarim, isn't he? I mean, yesterday we listened to the PR department of Marcus Rashford, Henry Winter, and tell us about how it was Man United's initiative.
Come on, Henry got a good story
how
there.
It was Man United's initiative, and that ultimately that Marcus Rashford was really reacting to an agenda being set by Man United. How Henry would have that knowledge is beyond me, but I think it's probably more likely that's been fed to him by Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's job is to be worth something to Manchester United, and Amarim is quite right to say. I always used to use the sort of ideal of, if you're going to be here for 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months or 5 years, I want your best 5 hours, best 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months or 5 years. And he's kind of saying that, well, I can't deal with the future because the future will take care of itself, but what I want is the best version of Marcus Rashford. What Marcus Rashford has done has set the cat amongst the pigeons. People are trying to work out the meaning of what he meant about his new challenge. It's quite clear, unless you're the blind leading the deaf, that what he meant was he wants to leave Manchester United. And why he would feel the necessity to announce that, I don't know. But the fact that what Amarim is getting is a crash course in what it's like to be Manchester United manager. Because sometimes you don't know whether you're Arthur or Martha. You're fighting against the very people that should be on side with you. And Manchester United brings such heat, such temperature, such awareness, such focus on everything that players like Rashford can utilise the opportunity. And when you look at the successes of Man United, you talk about Ronaldo. One of the things that people said to me when they were talking about Ronaldo's success and how many social media followers he has, most of the time when you look at Ronaldo's imagery, it's in a Manchester United shirt or a Real Madrid shirt or a Juventus shirt. So still the iconography of the club translates above the individual.
That's a great point.
And that's the thing about Man United.
I've seen that. You're right.
I think Amarim is managing this minefield of what to say. I would suspect what he wants to do is get his hands around his throat and say, what are you thinking? Why would you behave this way? This is a conversation between you and I. This is not a conversation for the media. Why would you give some journalist an insight into the relationship that you have with a club? I think it's preposterous. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's an awful behaviour from Rashford. And I hope he reaps the whirlwind for it. He probably won't. He'll probably get rewarded for it by a bigger contract somewhere. But the point of it is that Marcus Rashford has made his decision, it would appear. The dust will settle. I would imagine that Amarim doesn't think it's constructive. Danny Murphy gave us an insight into the thinking of players yesterday by saying, if you're a player and you get dropped for Rashford, what are you thinking? You're thinking, hang on a second, this fella don't want to be here anymore. And you're picking him above me. So there's all these sort of politics.
So can he play again for Manchester United?
Well, of course he can play again for Man United.
Will he?
He hasn't committed a cardinal sin. He's committed a professional indiscretion, in my view, an unwise one. But there you are. That's what players do. That's how they behave.
Garnacho's in the squad tonight. So
but he's just a little runt, isn't he? I mean, he's the one running around complaining about the fact that people didn't, he can't celebrate a goal because people didn't applaud him everything he ever did.
Well, runt or not, he's back.
That to me is the character of somebody. That's the precise polar opposite of what you want. What you want is leaders and people that play for Man United with some real understanding of their responsibility to the fan base and to the football club per se. So Rashford, in and of himself,
it'd be funny if you run into Garnacho's brother tonight.
Well, what's he going to be, about 2 foot tall, same as him? What's he going to do? Punch me in the knee?
Do you think we'll see Rashford again? I really do mean that, because I'm now struggling to think, after he said what he said to Henry, and well done Henry Winter, some journalist as you called him.
Oh, he's some journalist.
That was the line to get, and he got it. And the bottom line is, Rashford said what he said, And now it makes it difficult to see him in a United shirt
I
again.
don't suppose Henry put the thumbscrews on him and made him tell him something. I think Rashford was all too keen to tell him it. It wasn't some Woodward and Bernstein moment. They didn't get a deep throat perspective out of it, did they? They got Marcus Rashford telling us what he wanted to tell us. And then what you get is Henry's version of how it happened, because Man United created it. Can't possibly know that. That's because Henry's got a particular bias towards the player in this instance. The bottom line is that Rashford has created a conversation piece which I don't think is constructive for Manchester United. And that's what the common good should be.
Yeah.
It should be what is right for Man United until it's not.
Profit and sustainability, Michael. What effect has it had on you and your work?
Huge, not just me, the industry.
I mean, the transfer market slumped, right?
Yeah, we're in a recession. It's something that's not discussed enough. I feel like we've been heading that way. It was probably circumnavigated because of the Saudi investment last season and the season before, where they started to invest, and you had the trickle-down effect of economics helping to support the European leagues. But I definitely feel now as if with Saudi pulling back this year, they didn't spend anywhere near as much. I think I saw a stat out there. It was like 75% decrease in investment.
Yeah, so the bubble's burst, doesn't it?
I don't think it's a recession. I think it's a correction. I think
which, by definition, is a recession.
But I don't think you've seen a recession in player wages.
You have.
Well, the average player salary in the Premier League has gone up. So you might well find it in the lower level of football.
You'll find Championship. I've had Premier League players. I've got players in the Eredivisie. I've got players in. So do you want to keep going? It's not a problem.
Eredivisie, great.
Listen, it's one of the top leagues in Europe. We can keep going.
If the average salary of the Premier League has gone up, which it has, then you can't make the argument that the market's in recession. And throwing around terms like recession when it's probably just a correction of what people are prepared to spend and not prepared to spend.
Football's in a recession.
Well, that's a view.
Football now there may be the haves and the have-nots, which I do agree with, right? But trust me, football is in a recession.
Well, it'll be the first of its kind.
From the lower end of the Premier League through to the Championship, League One, League Two, there is a lack of investment and money that is around that has affected the players in a very real way. End of discussion.
So you're living in your ivory.
Simon just likes, exactly. That's the point.
Well,
That's
affected the players in terms of potential clubs paying transfer fees at inflated levels. I wouldn't say it's a recession. I say it's a correction.
A correction, okay, all right.
Which, by way of definition, is a recession.
Very much so.
It's not. It's a correction.
It's a recession.
Recession.
Do you know what a recession is?
Yeah, falling below standards 2 quarters in a row.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Just go ahead.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.